Hi everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, and it is Monday. You know what that means. On Mondays, we do tier lists. On Wednesdays, the characters in Mean Girls wear pink. And just like Mean Girls, we focus a lot on Pokemon Unite here.
Fall for you, Glen Coco. You go, Glen Coco.
Let me take you over to our tier list today. Today we are going to be talking about my face swapped. Whoa, I went the other way. Today we're going to be talking about Pokemon who kill it in lane. I hope you enjoy this. I get asked a lot, which Pokemon should I play in lane? Which Pokemon should I play in the jungle? I will mention laning and jungling in this, but this list is going to be ranking them based on how well they do in lane. Our categories today: top category, the S so much lane tier, the A lane meanie tier, the B tier. Unbelievable. What are you doing here? Still got the B tier, the C could do better tier, and the D Denise stop it tier. So the Denise stop it tier, in my mind, I know someone named Denise. She keeps playing some of these Pokemon in lane, and I have to tell her to stop it, Denise. You need to stop, okay? You're going crazy, Denise. So let's start ranking some of these Pokemon here, and I'll try to give you a good idea as to why I'm putting them where I'm putting them. As always, this is a game you're supposed to play. Play whatever you like, but when you want to start getting good at this game, I think it's important to notice where your Pokemon excels, and hopefully this list can help you figure out where to put them. And I'll also mention which lane I like to play them in, but I will say Pokemon that are good in lane, they're kind of good in any lane. Here we go. Let's see, Absol's a weird one. So Absol, I think, works pretty well in the jungle and also pretty well in lane. I think it would be maybe a little too bold to put it up into the A tier. However, I think it's a solid B tier lane Pokemon. Pretty dang good. I actually like this a lot more in the bottom lane than I do in the top lane. The top lane is smaller, so it's kind of easier to get back and forth, which means I feel like I don't have as much room to sort of run around and kind of escape situations. I like that with Absol. So when I usually play Absol in the bottom lane, I kind of blow past that first Audino people fight over, and I try to steal the bottom two from the enemy. It usually actually works pretty well if you can pull them into a bush and have the enemies not notice what you're doing. I like Absol in lane. Not bad, actually. I think a solid B tier choice. If you don't get jungle with Absol, it's not the end of the world. Some Pokemon, if you don't get jungle, they have a really hard time in lane. Absol doesn't do too bad, I don't think. My music might be a little loud. I'm going to turn that down just a little. Okay. Let's see here. Who should we do next? Let's do... Okay, so we've got a B tier. Let me pop in an A tier laning Pokemon right here. Okay. Specifically for the lane, I think Cramorant is extremely good. It falls off a lot late game, in my opinion. I think its Unite move really falls off. I like Cram. I've always liked Cram. I wish Cram was better. However, up until about level 6, Cram is pretty dang dominant in the lane. You still want someone around it, so you kind of want some bulk around it to help, but it can steal wild Pokemon, it can KO enemies pretty well, it does a ton of damage on those bees. I think Cram is a pretty solid lane Pokemon. The only issue with a Pokemon like Cram is that it actually does this job similar to a few other Pokemon who I think actually play the lane a little bit better. And since we have an A tier and a B tier, let's throw in an S tier, a so much lane tier Pokemon. I think Ninetales is one of the best lane Pokemon in the game. It's amazing. You basically, against a good Ninetales, you can't get into that goal, you can't score, you get zoned out from every objective. It really succeeds in the lane. This is where Ninetales shines, and it shines so hard here. I think it's one of the best laning Pokemon in the game. I often play Ninetales and Cram, by the way, in the top lane, but you know, competitively at times when there was the 1-1-3 meta and both of these Pokemon were played a bit, you would see them in the bottom lane, obviously. I think they're solid in either lane. A little stronger probably in top, but either way you play these Pokemon, I think they're really great. Ninetales is just amazing in lane, and that would be with that Avalanche Blizzard build. I think is really, really strong. Our next Pokemon, let's do a C tier Pokemon. Okay, C tier Pokemon, Gardevoir. So I don't think Gardevoir is terrible. I think it's gotten a lot better, and one of its saving graces right now is that once it becomes level 5, it's actually pretty decent. So it used to be just someone that you could stomp on in lane the whole time, and if you can stop it from getting a lot of wild Pokemon and evolving, you can still stomp on it pretty hard. I would rather play Gardevoir in the jungle. Personally, I love playing Guard in the jungle, but it's not the worst in lane. You could do a lot better. You could be Cram or Ninetales, but I think Guard's in such a great place in the game right now. Not the worst. Again, that level 5 makes it pretty decent. You just need to get it some experience so it can get there. So if it's laning with, you know, like one of those Pokemon that evolves at 4, like a Wiggly or a Slowbro or something like that. Obviously, those Pokemon are going to get their level 4 first, but after that, if you can funnel experience to Gardevoir, that would be super ideal. Okay, we can put a Denise stop it here. Well, you guys probably know this is coming. Decidueye. Denise, stop it. Stop playing this Pokemon in lane. It's much better in jungle if you have to play this Pokemon. I personally think Decidueye is in probably the worst spot in the game right now. Maybe the worst, maybe second. It's up there as one of the worst Pokemon in the game solo for sure, because you have no way of knowing if your team is going to support you or not. It's so weak. It has such little mobility. It's atrocious in lane. If you're a jungler and you notice a lane has a Decidueye, gank that lane. It's so like, go to that lane for your 850. You cannot not get a KO on this Pokemon. It's pretty hard. So I think it's one of the worst lane Pokemon in the game, if not the worst lane Pokemon in the entire game. Decidueye is just so rough. It takes a lot to evolve. It doesn't secure super well. It has to get its attack revved up. As long as you don't play foolishly around it, I think you just destroy it every time. It's really rough in lane. It starts to get a lot better as the game goes on, but man, it takes a while for that Pokemon to really shine. That's why in the jungle, it actually benefits greatly because it doesn't have to deal with that early laning phase, and it can get all the experience it needs. Okay, let's keep moving on. You know, we've got Blastoise right here. I think Blastoise is a B tier Pokemon in lane. Pretty good, not terrible. Not amazing. It doesn't have the lane pressure of a couple other defenders that we'll talk about here, but it doesn't really... It doesn't get outshined too hard either. It has okay secure with its was it water gun? It has okay secure with its water gun. So I also like, you know, you can do a skull bash and then push an enemy back towards a disadvantageous position. So not the best defender to have in lane, especially because of its evolution path, but still really solid. I actually think it's a pretty solid Pokemon to play in lane. You're probably not going to play it in jungle. There are much better jungle choices. So you would be playing it in lane with someone like a Ninetales, Cram, you know, something like that, Pikachu. And I actually think you'd have a pretty solid lane right there. Nothing amazing, but pretty dang solid for Blastoise. When I'm saying it's B tier compared to some other defenders, let's talk about other defenders that are better than this. Let's just talk about one that I think is... This is either A or S. I'm going to maybe say Slowbro is... I think it might be S tier, honestly, in lane. It evolves at 4. It gets Surf at 4, which is devastating. It's ranged, so you're constantly hitting people with ranged attacks. It's secure with its water gun is pretty incredible. It's used competitively. The only issue with this Pokemon is if you play it solo, you might just get paired with people who don't know how to play with it, and then you're just kind of, you know, supporting nobody. That's the biggest problem with supporters and defenders in general. But Slowbro is a beast in lane. Evolves at level 4. Just looking at this lane right here, Ninetales Slowbro lane, it hurts my heart because that's just it's just such a mean lane. But yeah, just incredible in lane. So good. The biggest thing is that early evolution and that huge power spike when it gets Surf. Surf is just so incredible for early lane. It's so impossible to deal with an early Slowbro. It's so good. Let's talk about another defender here. This is a weird one. Greedent. Greedent is kind of A. I would say it's A. So the reason I think it's better than Blastoise is it's so incredibly mobile in lane. It kind of feels like a mini Lucario at times. Its sustain is still incredibly good. If this evolved at 4, it would be brutal in lane. It evolves at 5 though, so it's still not bad at all. You can stack with it incredibly well. You can leave lane to kind of harass the enemy and invade the jungle a little bit and make it back without too much time having gone. So I think it's a very, very solid lane Pokemon. It can also play that solo top lane that you see competitively sometimes. It can play jungle. Greedent's kind of good anywhere. It's just an incredibly good Pokemon. It's great. It's just great everywhere. I love it. It's so good. Incredible in lane. It has a lot less defendery presence compared to someone like a Slowbro or something like that. But yeah, it's just so good in lane and everywhere. It's so good everywhere. Let's do some more defenders while we're at it. Crustal. Crustal. I think Crustal's probably B. Yeah, I think it's B. It at times it kind of teeters maybe towards the A, and it in times, strange enough, teeters towards the C. So I think its Stealth Rock used to be a bit better. Its X attack is still pretty strong. It's strong. Its boosted attacks actually, now that it, is buffed, that they actually do pack a bit of a punch. You're kind of surprised with how much damage they do. But in general, I mean, there are just so many defenders who kind of do that role a little bit better. One of the hardest things about Crustal is Greedent essentially is just better Crustal. They're not the same at all. But kind of for its role, this like speedy harasser type, stealing farm, scoring. I think Greedent does everything Crustal does, but better. Crustal's still pretty good. Still pretty good in lane. A really fun solo Pokemon, but nothing spectacular. I think a solid B tier pick. Solid B tier pick for that Pokemon. We're still on defenders. Why not? Let's talk about Mamoswine. I think Mamo might actually be A. I mean, it's Icicle Crash. Its tackle secures. It freezes people with its basics. It doesn't really do too much when it comes to slowing down people from scoring on its goal, but I actually think it's a really incredibly solid lane Pokemon. I would rather have it as a laner. I'm not saying all game, because all game I think Blastoise outshines it considerably once it gets its Unite. But as a lane Pokemon, I think Mamoswine is pretty dang good. You don't see it much competitively. It probably still needs a little tweak to be used more competitively, but I was running this the other day in a 5-stack with another Pokemon Unite creator, Jeff Hoogland, and he was playing Mamo in the bottom lane, and it's a seriously solid choice for that lane. I think the biggest thing is not only is it tanky, not only can it secure with its tackle and kind of with its Icicle Crash, you also just get so much, freeze and stun from it. So it's really nice. I like it in lane a lot. I would say it's a lane meanie for sure. Do we have any other defenders that we haven't got to? Oh, Snorlax. I think Snorlax is probably S tier. Yeah. I mean, the early lane, now I'm talking early. The early lane, the tackle from Snorlax, the tackle and then into its boosted, what does it do? 8,000 damage. It secures every single lane Pokemon. It knocks out, I mean, it's just incredible. I kind of don't want to give it up, honestly. Like, when it comes to getting Heavy Slam, I'm kind of like, let me have tackle for 2 more levels. But I think Snorlax is incredible in lane. You would not ever want to play him in the jungle. So he's just really, really good in lane. I've seen more people running sort of a flail block build recently, and I kind of like the vibe of it because flail yawn just felt like you were losing so much of the incredible advantage from block, but now there's this really fun way where you're scaling with good damage through the mid game, and also you're getting these sneaky KOs late game because people don't expect that you're going to hit them with a 2,000 damage critical hit flail. So I think it's a really solid lane Pokemon. One of the best in the game, for sure. Had to take a sip of the coffee there. You guys saw me holding it the whole time. You knew I was going for it. Let's see. Other defenders. Yeah, we don't have any other defenders except for Trevenant. And I'm sorry to say that Trevenant's evolution puts it really, really far behind. It's weird. I don't know what to say about it except... they just really don't want this Pokemon to shine early, and because of that, I think it is in the Denise stop it tier as far as lane. Once it becomes 5, it's so much better. But its early phase, compared to almost every other Pokemon in the game, it's horrible. Honestly, it's horrible. It needs a massive buff. I don't think the Pokemon overall needs massive buffs. Like, to its mid to late game, it's a lot more... comparable to some of these other defenders, However, while I still do think it needs some buffs, however, its early game is kind of atrocious. It doesn't steal well. It's not very tank. It's just really rough. It has a really rough early game. You're not going to play it in jungle. You got to kind of play it in lane. But man, it's just so rough early. I feel bad for it. It needs some love. Trevenant is just so rough early in the lane. When you see that little phantom running around, you're like, oh, you poor thing. Oh, you poor thing. I am a Talonflame and I am going to eat your head. So it's just so rough. I'm sorry, Trevenant, but you need some early game help, my man. I'm apologizing a lot to this Pokemon. Okay, let's see. Where do we want to go next? We have some attackers on the board. We can continue with attackers, maybe. Let's do that. So, let's see. We've got a few that are really good and a few that aren't so good. You know, attackers really run the gamut here. So let's talk about Cinderace. Cinderace in the jungle, I think, is amazing. Probably the best jungler in the game. Dragonite's up there because of its early secure. I mean, there are other great junglers too. Talon, Zeraora. These are incredible jungle Pokemon. I think Cinder in lane is C tier. You don't want it in lane. You want it in the jungle because it needs to evolve so that it can become useful. It's kind of not that useful for a while. The only saving grace of Cinder's lane is it has pretty incredible range to its attacks, and you can kind of just stay away and continue to kick at people who are in your lane. It has horrible secure. It does have a dash, which is really nice. But beyond that, yeah, it's just pretty rough in lane. It definitely beats out a Pokemon like Decidueye. However, if you're going to play Cinder, please play it in the jungle if you can. A Pokemon that I could say almost every single word exactly the same is Greninja. Greninja, way better in jungle, pretty rough in lane. The only thing that keeps it out of the bottom tier is its ability to kind of get out of some situations. It has okay secure with its little bubble attack there, but in general, also another really, it's a borderline bad Pokemon in lane. It's slightly saved because it's ranged. Slightly, but yeah, rough. Very, very rough, these two. If you have the opportunity at all, put them in the jungle if you can, because they just become amazing once they get their XP. But before they do, they're just Pokemon with a big target on them. Like jump in, KO them. What other attackers do we got? Pikachu. Pikachu is an S tier lane Pokemon. One of the best in the game. Incredible. Probably better to have than Ninetales just because it scales better than Ninetales right now. So its Unite move is just, as I've said many times, Pikachu just does what Cramorant and Ninetales does, but better. That's it. Pikachu's just better than both of them at a very, very similar role. It's incredible in lane. You get easy KOs with it. You take out wild Pokemon pretty well with it. Your Electro Web catches people. You've got Thunder that will, take down bees pretty easily. It zones enemies out. You can use Electro Ball if you want to be aggressive and get, a lot of KOs with it. Just incredible in lane. And pairing it up with either of those two, Slowbro or Snorlax, ooh, what a mean lane. Incredible. Pikachu's incredible. As far as lane preference, I usually play at top lane. I recognize I've forgotten to mention that with a few of these Pokemon here. I like a lot of them in top lane. My bottom lane, I usually have more of like a supporter, all-rounder sort of situation going on bottom when I'm not playing in any sort of competitive fashion. So a lot of these Pokemon I think about in the top lane here, but they're good in either lane. They're good anywhere you put them. All right, any other attackers? We've got two more. Is that what I'm looking at here? Yeah, we've got Sylveon and we've got Venusaur. Let's talk about Sylveon. Sylveon is almost S. I almost want to put it S. It's so good. I almost want to put it S, but there are a couple. I don't know. It evolves at 4. Maybe it is S. It's one of my favorite Pokemon in the game. Sylveon's Hyper Voice is one of the meanest things in lane ever. It's just constantly up, constantly spraying damage at you and wild Pokemon. It's just such a nightmare to deal with. Yeah, you know what? I think it's S. I do. I do think it falls off in the game, especially with some builds and characters that are just extremely mobile. But Mystical Fire also is really, really good. You have incredible assassinations. It doesn't secure wild Pokemon as well, though. So if you're playing it in lane, you kind of lose that securing. However, wow. I mean, Sylveon is just incredible. Evolves at 4 and gets Hyper Voice. What do you do? What's to be done? It's so good. Venusaur's a weird one. Venusaur is slightly better than both Cinder and Greninja, and you're probably not playing it in the jungle. The thing about Venusaur is it's okay early, and its boosted attack is really good. Its Razor Leaf, pretty good as well. But its boosted attack just deals a lot of damage in that line there, which is really, really nice. I think it still, of course, is outshined by everyone you're seeing above it as far as just how well it competes in lane. But it's not bad. It's a solid B tier choice. And then as the game goes on, this Pokemon outscales almost everyone in the game. I mean, Petal Dance, Giga Drain, as the game progresses, once you're at level 13 especially, this Pokemon is just an absolute nightmare to deal with. So it outscales, I think, pretty much everyone I have on this board right now. Except for maybe, your junglers there, your Greninjas and Cinderaces. But gosh, it still even does well in that sense. So it's not amazing in lane. Not terrible, though. It's still a solid lane. And then later in the game, it just becomes incredibly good. So those are all of our attackers here. We don't have any Speedsters on the board. And Speedsters are a weird one because they're kind of designed to be played in jungle. And I think that's relatively true for a lot of these guys. I think Zeraora's C tier in the jungle. It's kind of teetering B. It's actually not terrible. It has a decent amount of mobility, and its agility will let you attack fast enough to hopefully secure things. Its slash isn't too bad, but I mean, really, when you compare it to almost anything else, it's fine. It's fine. I think Absol does better in lane than Zeraora. It just has a little stronger single target damage, so it can secure a little bit better. Zera's not terrible, but Zera also takes a long time to get online. It doesn't get its second move until level 8. It doesn't get its Unite till 10. You really want it in the jungle. So if you have to play it in lane, go for it, but otherwise you would hope that you're playing Zeraora in the jungle. Talon is a very tricky one. So Talon's thing is, on certain comps, it actually is played decently well in lane with like a Lucario. This is something that you see a lot of the Japanese teams trying out. I think in general, unless you are on a coordinated team and you have a very specific plan, this Pokemon is pretty rough in lane. I don't like it in lane. I love it in jungle. I don't really like it in lane. It's not abysmal. You do have some mobility, but it's really squishy. You need it to get to level 5. If it evolved at 4, it would be so much better in lane, but it evolves at 5, and that means you're not going to have it evolved for those first Bs. It's just insanely unlikely unless the craziest situations happen to you. So it's a little rough in lane. You definitely would rather have it in the jungle, for sure. Then there's Gengar, who actually used to be pretty deep. I would say I would have put Gengar maybe kind of low B, C. But now that they've taken away its Shadow Ball, basically, you don't get Shadow Ball until level 7 now. Now its lane is kind of so much worse. You have to play this Pokemon in the jungle, which is unfortunate because there's so many better Pokemon to play in the jungle. I want to say that this is probably D tier right now, laning. It's better than Decidueye and Trevenant, I feel like, but not by much, honestly. It's really rough in lane. So the new change to Gengar has helped its jungling. You get Hex at 5, which makes your ganks way better. But it has hurt its lane a lot, because if you're going Shadow Ball Dream Eater, which is kind of what you're doing in lane, you are now getting Dream Eater at 5. It's just not very good. Its laning is not good. It's always been a little tough, and right now with this change, I think its laning is even worse. Put it in the jungle if you're going to play Gengar. Not that you can't play it in lane, but I mean, imagine if you saw a lane that was Trevenant Gengar. Whoa, you were going to get stumped. You could put one person up there, and you could deal with that lane. It's just not a scary lane. It really isn't. No other Speedsters. Let's move on to, we've got all-rounders and we've got supporters. Let's do our supporters. Blissey. I think Blissey's A tier. Very, very good in lane. Its steal is incredible. Pound is one of the best steals in the game. You can steal basically every single enemy Pokemon with it. I feel so mean when I'm playing Blissey in lane. The thing that keeps it out of its S tier, in my opinion, is it doesn't have something that hinders the enemy. While its steel is incredibly good, it just doesn't do enough to kind of stop the enemy. You support your ally though with either your soft boiled or your safeguard, and then you just steal everything with your pound as Blissey. So a really solid lane, but you gotta kind of compare it to the other few supports here who are all slightly better. So okay, let's talk about Wiggly. Wiggly's one of the best in the game. Wiggly's amazing. Sing is amazing. Rollout's also really incredible in lane, especially in bottom lane where there are those chokes that you can hit people with, and you could just get those incredible rollout KOs. It's so tanky. It's so disruptive. Its steel is incredibly good with its slap. So, I mean, yeah, Wiggly is just one of the best Pokemon in the game and one of the best Pokemon in lane. Play it anywhere. I usually play Blissey. I like Blissey in the bottom lane a lot more. Wiggly, you can play in either lane. You're just the meanest thing in the world. You're so mean with Wiggly. It's incredible in lane. Another one that I think is actually an S tier laner is Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime's incredible. The thing about Mr. Mime that's so good is it's secure. When it gets confusion at level 4, so it doesn't need to get to level 5 before it gets its really good move. When you get its confusion at level 4 and you throw down, one of those barriers, you push all the bees into it, the enemy, anyone who's there, everything is stunned and KO'd, and the damage is insane. You can score easily with it. You can stay safe easily with it. You can box out enemies. You can make it sure that they can't escape. It's just so mean in lane. Incredibly good in lane. I think Mime is so good. Eldegoss is a weird one. So here's the thing about Eldegoss. Eldegoss in lane is pretty good. In a tri-lane, it's unbelievable. And in a duo lane, it's still insanely good. It's one of the best Pokemon in the game for all of these reasons, and for its Leaf Tornado and its Steel. It's an S tier pick. In some ways, I would rather, if I'm playing solo, I'd rather play Wiggly or Mime for sure. But that being said, it's still incredible solo. You would never be upset to have an Eldegoss on your team. You would always be stoked. There's some of those Pokemon that you're just always happy to see in lane. I usually play Eldegoss in the bottom lane. It's kind of that supporter that you put with, an all-rounder or someone to help them sort of survive that lane. Not as good when you kind of have to put it with someone who's also ranged, like a Greninja or something like that, but still decent. Ideally, I think the way you want to play Eldegoss is you're constantly poking them at ranged, and then whoever your ally is fighting kind of up front with you. And there are so many Pokemon that could be doing that. So they're sort of blocking for you. You're healing them a bit. You're picking away at the enemy the whole time. You're stealing things. You're great. You're great with Eldegoss. And you evolve at 4, which is really nice. All right, let's see. The next are all-rounders here, including our new one. I'll make a guess about our new one as we go to. Charizard is... I think Charizard, compared to what I'm looking at in C, this is really low B. Really low. I think it's high C, actually. Char is not very good in lane. You want to play it in the jungle. Once it's level 9, it's one of the scariest Pokemon in the game. It just dives on you, constantly has its Unite up, and it burns everyone to a crisp. But before that, man, it's just so weak. Yeah. It has moments. If you catch them, if you catch an enemy with fire, and you run alongside them, and you're also not in a position to get ganked, it has its moments where you can really do some incredible damage with it. I would much rather have it than Cinder or Greninja, but I still think it's pretty rough in lane. Maybe it's B tier. This is a close one for me. I'm gonna put you low B for now, Char. Garchomp. Garchomp is bad but better. So Garchomp's whole thing is that scaling towards the late game. That's the whole idea with Garchomp. It's better though. Now that it gets its move at level 5, it's a lot better than it used to be. It can actually help secure some of those Bs. Now I actually think it's probably high C. It's right there with Char. It's like high C, low B. I think sort of the biggest issue with it still is just early. It's just kind of rough. Basically, as soon as Char and Garchomp get their level 5, once they get their first evolution and they kind of get their first move, they're way, way, way better. But the thing that kind of puts them in this weird limbo area between B and C is that until you get there, you're just really rough, and you won't get there for first Bs. So you're good, not great. However, as the game goes on, you can kind of even leave, you know, Garchomp can solo. It can be in a solo lane the whole time as the rest of the game goes. I might even move this up to B right now. Maybe I'll do this. Can't believe I'm going to do this. Oh, that changed. Oops. That's not what I meant to do. Can't believe I'm going to do this. Wrong. We got a B- tier. Just got a B- tier. Can't believe it. Really devastating stuff right here. And that's where these two are going to go. I think they're not as bad as the things we're seeing, you know, and Zera can move here. Maybe Talon as well. This is kind of this B- tier. Like, I don't really want them there, but I think they're better than the people we have down here in the C tier. They're just not quite B tier quality. I had to make an entire tier for you guys. I hope you're happy. Hope you're happy. Just got the B- tier. All right, moving on. Machamp. Machamp is A or S. It's teetering into S. It's secure with Karate Chop is so much better, but I think the thing that stops it from being an S tier choice is it just doesn't have enough mobility. It's incredible, way better than it used to be. I'm so thankful that they are fixing Machamp and making it a lot better in lane specifically, so it can kind of compete with Lucario for that solo top lane. But for most duo lanes, you're still kind of underwhelming with Machamp at times, and it's because you can't get away. You can't get away, and you kind of can't get two enemies. It's harder to stack because of that if you are using a stacking item. So I think a good Pokemon in lane, it gets close, but because of its mobility, I have to keep it down here in the A tier. S tier Lucario with a bullet, with 100 bullets, with 1,000 bullets. One of the best Pokemon in the game, one of the best lane Pokemon in the game. The order of this doesn't really mean a lot. One of the best Pokemon in the game, one of the best lane Pokemon. It solos the top lane. You can score with it. You can run with it. You can fight with it. You can kiss with it. You can sing with it. You can take it to a used car lot and it will help get you the best deal. It's a very good negotiator in those situations. And honestly, when you have a problem and you just need to vent, it will listen to you, and if you want solutions, it will help provide them, but at the same time, it will also just recognize when it's time for them to just listen. You just need to get it off your chest, and it's just so incredible. It's the best. I mean, what can you say? It's so incredibly good. Zarina. Zarina's probably B- as well. A lot of these all-rounders are, and once it's level 6, it's amazing. Before it's level 6, it's okay. It's okay. It has okay secure. It's just really squishy. Doesn't do a lot of damage. It's okay. Level 6, though, once it gets online, much, much better. Recently, you know, it's kind of been nerfed a couple times. They've been messing around with it. It's definitely dropped in viability a lot. It was at one point just bananas, but I believe right now, especially in lane, not the worst. B-, but yeah, B-. Dragonite. Dragonite's almost C for me, but I think it's also B-. A lot of these all-rounders feel the same to me in lane. So Dragonite, once it becomes level 8 and actually becomes Dragonite, especially if you're going Hyper Beam, great. Love it. Love it. Before that, doesn't do that much. Really doesn't do that much. It has okay secure. You get its Dragon Dance at, once you're level 5, you can deal some decent damage with your, basic attacks kind of whirring up there a little bit. If you're playing in lane, I wonder if it's stronger just to play Razor Claw maybe, so that you kind of have that extra pop of damage after you use either of your moves there. I'm not really sure. It's just kind of rough in lane. If it's jungle and it gets its level 8 pre-dread, well, you just probably secured yourself dread now right there. So jungle, pretty incredible. Lane, don't love it. Aegislash. So I think this Pokemon will probably be C tier in lane. I don't think it's going to be a super solid lane Pokemon. It might even hover into the Denise Stop It tier because I think it feels like a jungler. I would love it if its secure felt strong enough to solo top. We've got to see if that's the case. I could be wrong here, and maybe this actually teeters up here into B-. But for me, when I look at this Pokemon, I think, oh, you want that in the jungle because at level 5, it's going to come in and gank the lane so hard. It's going to KO everyone in such a massive way. My thought here is I'm going to leave it B- for now. That's kind of my generic all-rounders and speedsters. Like, Pokemon are kind of should be here, kind of not. Maybe B-. This could fall a lot. If it can solo top, then this obviously shoots way up. It might be an odd A or an S tier laner. I still think it's kind of designed to be in the jungle there. And then Crashy's a jungler. Denise, stop it. Crashy, get yourself into the jungle, my man. There we go. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope that helped you understand which Pokemon are strong in lane and why. A lot of it's because of how quickly they level, the early pressure that you're able to get from a Pokemon in lane, as opposed to a Pokemon that takes a long time to evolve or just really shouldn't be there because they need so much XP to get good. And then once they're good, they're pretty incredible. Okay, and now we move things around just because it's fun to do. And if someone skips all the way to the end, they get a little confused. It's a fun little joke. Some people think it's mean-spirited. Those people are not having a good time. Okay, let's see here. I want a little something in that top that's a little weird, right? Maybe I'll put up there Zarina. Okay. So this, obviously, when you've got a Wiggly, a Venusaur, I mean, these are some of the best lane Pokemon in the game, Mime, Greedent. The sneaky one is Zarina. It doesn't get its evolution early. It doesn't evolve at 4, but once it becomes level 6, it can solo any Pokemon in the entire game and kind of go against multiple. It can go against 2 people at the same time, no problem. So because of that, Zarina is kind of the new S tier all-rounder. It beats out Lucario, still very good, beats out Machamp, who has gotten so much better. And then you see Charizard, obviously, as far as all-rounders go, all the way to the bottom here. It's just in such a rough position in the game right now. If you've seen any of my recent videos about Charizard, you know that I'm very, very down on Charizard. It's just unfortunate kind of what they've been doing to this Pokemon lately, but you know, I don't know. It is what it is. Trevenant, as I said earlier, pretty decent in lane, you know, really, really solid early game. And then once it evolves, it just gets even better there. So I think Trevenant's in a really good spot as a lane Pokemon right here. Of course, Cinderace, basically anything with range is really, really incredible, except for our Greninja and Gardevoir, who, you know, for some reason the game just refuses to make good. But let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see y'all next time.